It's time for a road trip. We're heading to Pachuta, Mississippi, and we're going to be deer hunting with Mike Giles. Mike Giles is a pastor's son, and he blends his faith with the great outdoors. He works in the insurance business, but he loves to share the passion of the outdoors. He's an author. He is a writer for outdoor magazines and the newspapers in our area, and we can't wait to share his story with you today on The Road in Between. Let's go.
Thoughts keep running through my head as I walk this road with nothing ahead. The sun beams down on my face as I walk this road that leads to amazing grace.
I am here with my good friend Mike Giles. Thank you, Mike, for coming to Lake Edens and being with us on The Road in Between.
Glad to be here, Tom.
Well, you and I have met right here, in fact, about 10 years ago.
That's
You
right.
came down with Lamar Arrington, and you shared a big moment with me in my life. And I thank you for that. But this is your story that I'm real interested in sharing with other people.
Yes, sir.
And Mike, you have got a real heart for faith and family and friends, and you're able to kind of blend all of that together through the great outdoors.
Yes, it's just a part of my life from day one. When I was a young boy, probably that tall, I went fishing with my dad and granddad, and we were minnow fishing back in those days, and squirrel hunting. And a lot of action, you don't have to be quiet, except for a little bit of time.
A little bit of time. Well, tell us about your father kind of bringing you into hunting and fishing.
Actually, my dad, he, in his day, they fished with minnows. And so we fished with minnows. He was a pastor, and a lot of ponds around the community, country pastor, Didn't get a lot of money, but you had a lot of people that had farms, and they had ponds. And not many people got to fish those ponds. So what we did, we went fishing. We'd go down there, like the Covington's Minnow Farm, they raised minnows, and get us some minnows, preferably the biggest we could get, and a bobber, as they call it. And my first fish, I still remember it today. We were at Goat Mosley's Pond in Kemper County, Mississippi. Had a little Mickey Mouse type rod and reel, and I'm just playing up there on the bank. First thing you know, I look out, and that thing's floating, and it's going out in the water. And I start hollering, and Dad gets a stick and brings it close enough for me to grab, and it's a bass about that big. I was hooked on fishing from that day forward.
And I see you got a fishing pole here, fishing rod.
That's right. I've got one of probably the lightest combo I've ever had. It's a Carbon Light from Bass Pro Shop, and hadn't had it very long, but I'm telling you, I caught by accident, 20-something pound carp on it the other day. And I threw a rattle trap out, got it from Bass Pro Shop, of course. The minute it hit the water, that carp hit that thing in his mouth, and it took me about 20 minutes to land him. Now, I wasn't trying to fish for a carp, but I'm telling you, he came out of the water 3 or 4 times, rolled like a big striped bass. And the only reason I brought that up, this rod is so light, it's light as a feather, well balanced. You wouldn't think it'd catch a big fish, but I'm telling you, it has sensitivity, feel, and it's very powerful. And this is part of my Bass Pro stuff. I don't sell anything. I don't make a dime off of these things being sold, but if it's good, I'm gonna use it and tell people about it. And of course, I've been using Bass Pro Shop since they were in the area. And it's a tool. And the more you it's like you see these bass fishermen fishing every day, or you see the pro basketball players or college, they bouncing the ball, they got the football in the hand, same way. I mean, I'm real comfortable with this thing right here. And it's a tool, and if you know how to use it, it can be a fun tool.
It's interesting to me that Jesus chose 12 disciples, and 4 out of the 12 we know of were fishermen.
That's right. That is right. And he also, in the Bible has a story about they fished all night and didn't catch anything. And it's kind of like my grandpa teaching me how to read that bottom with my lures and see. He wanted me to see with the feel. And course, Jesus said, throw your net on the other side of the boat. You know, sometimes we think it's all over or whatever we're doing, it's no hope. And they didn't want to do it. And he says, throw that net over there. So we fished all night. We ain't caught nothing. Throw it over there. They caught more fish than 2 boats could hold. That's the kind of life I want to live.
Well, I know you've got this book that you wrote, Passion.
Yes, I do. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Passion of the Wild. Inspirational outdoor stories. And I didn't want to write just another book. It's a lot of work to write a book. But I'll give you an answer to what happened to me. I was working with some Wheeling sportsmen. And with the NWTF at the time, they have a weekend. They go out. One day they'll shoot rifles, see what proficiency they've got.
These are people with disabilities.
They're disabilities in some way. They could have been born with it, had accidents. They called it Wheeling Sportsman. It was founded by Kurt Thomas. And he joined with the NWTF later. And on one of those hunts, the NWTF Ultimate Team Up at Bass Pro in Pearl, Mississippi, Kanan Gilly killed a deer. Kanan Gilly was 17 years old. He was born blind and with a mild case of cerebral palsy. Now, he didn't come to that hunt thinking he was going to be able to hunt, but they made a way for him. In the very first afternoon, he was hitting the target. Within the 2 or 3 minutes, he was hitting a pie plate at 100 yards consistent. He didn't have to look through the scope, but he looked down that range. His dad stood behind him and looked through the scope. That's how he shot. His dad had his hands on his shoulder just like this, and he would squeeze him and tell him left, right, whisper. That boy killed a deer. If a blind boy can kill a deer, what can't we do? So that's what the book's about. It's not about all those type of people, but it's about overcoming obstacles.
Now, what's the rifle you have there?
This rifle right here, actually I bought it for my daughter, but it's a Browning A-Bolt, and it's a 308. And the 308, believe it or not, is not a bad caliber. I mean, it goes way back. Snipers use it. This is a Nikon Monarch scope. But I wanted a scope, something that was real good, had a lot of eye relief, that she wouldn't have to get her eye real close to it. Anyway, I grew up hunting with a Browning BAR automatic. They're a little heavier, so I wanted something that she could load and unload. And as I say, I'm not selling the Browning, but you can pop this clip out and you can unload it. Make sure it's unloaded and then put it back in just like that. So a kid can use it, and it's very handy. It fits me just right, and anybody can shoot it, but a child can too. And killed my first deer with this rifle the first time I took it out this year, and an 8-point chasing a doe. And so it's a lot of fun. It's another tool. You know, you can't do like somebody I met this year. They went out, first time they went out, and they shot a deer at about 10 yards and missed it. They couldn't find blood or nothing. I said, did you shoot your gun before you went out? It was on when I quit last year. I said, have you tried your gun? Yes, sir. I've got it set now. So it got knocked off. They didn't shoot it before they went. So, you know, it's a lot more than just having a good piece of equipment, because you got to make sure it's in working order.
That's right. So
it's a lot of fun. Fishing, hunting. It feels comfortable for me. I'm not a trophy hunter. I do like to kill a big buck, but I mean, we use the meat, so we'll do the management. We'll harvest some does. And, you know, I get excited when I see bone.
Sure does. Well, you've made a lot of difference in our lives.
Well, I appreciate it.
And the way you have used your platform, whether it be as a businessman with insurance, or as a roofer early on, or now through Outdoors and Bass Pro, and an author.
Well, I enjoy it, and it's not something I really, if you'd have told me in high school I was going to become a writer, I thought you was crazy. They didn't write about fishing and hunting. I never heard of such. I knew about 1 or 2 magazines, and you know, I was lucky to see one of them, but I didn't know you could do such a thing. So it's just something that came, and it's a gradual. I'd won several tournaments, and they asked me to write a couple of bass fishing stories, and they said, hey, you keep it up, we'll pay you. And I thought, boy, it's like feeding a baby ice cream. So all this has happened. It's outside of me. It's nothing I never desired. I just wanted to catch fish, shoot deer and turkey, and enjoy life.
Well, we can read your articles at Meridian Star.
That's right.
And you've been writing for them for how long?
23 years. 23 years, and Mississippi Sportsman. Before that, Mississippi Woods and Waters, Game and Fish, Mississippi Outdoors, which is the state of Mississippi's magazine now. and, you know, occasionally do some online stuff and just enjoy it.
Very good. Well, thank you, Mike Giles, for coming on the Road in Between, and it's wonderful to be with you through life. And let's go have an adventure. Let's go hunting.
I'm ready to go.
Let's do it.
Let's go.
Stick around. We'll be right back.
John O'Neill Johnson Toyota has been serving customers for over 20 years with integrity, honesty, and value. We want to thank you, our customers, for helping us win so many awards. Now we're #1 in Gulf States Toyota for market share 2 years in a row. Multiple winner of Toyota's President Award and 6-time Gold Dealer recognition. And the reason is simple. Customer satisfaction is our #1 priority.
John O'Neill Johnson, a name you can trust. Toyota, a product you can depend on.
A lot of people have helped get me here. My sisters always had my back. My buddies, Sonny and Sean. The crew, pushing me to be faster. Amy, reminding me to enjoy the moment. And Nationwide, who I've personally been with for 25 years. It's never been just me out there. Nationwide is on your side.
Here's Tom Sykes with a Hush in the Rush moment.
Turkey hunting with Mike Giles, author extraordinaire, Passion of the Wild. Mike, call us in a turkey. Turkeys, they remind me of Thanksgiving, and Thanksgiving reminds me of the Greek word Eucharisteo, from which we get the word Eucharist. It's the story of feast, table, Jesus coming to the table, taking the broken bread and taking the wine and sharing it with friends. That's what Thanksgiving's all about. It also comes from the word charis, which means grace. So every time before we receive a meal, it's good to say grace. That's what it's all about. What does Thanksgiving mean to you, Mike?
Thanksgiving to me is all about families coming together and fellowshipping with friends. A lot of times centered around a feast, and we hunt and then we meet together and thank God for our blessings.
Mike Giles, let's call us in a turkey.
Hey, Mike and Tom, here's your whole Cajun turkey from Honey Baked Ham.
Thank you, Carrie Goodman. We're grateful for Honey Baked Ham. Mike Giles, you really know how to call in a turkey. This is Tom Sykes and Mike Giles on a Hush in the Rush moment on the Road in Between. Welcome back to the Road in Between. Today we're going hunting down in Jasper County, Mississippi. And we are in the early parts of January. The rut should be on. The wind's blowing a little bit east. We'll check it out and see what we can find. We're heading now to the Hawk's Nest, and glad you're here. The thing about hunting is very similar to that devotional life that we are all searching for, and that is you wake up early, you get dressed, you prepare, you focus in, you get your sights set in, you prepare the meals, and then you go out on the adventure. That to me is a great example of how God created us. Life is an adventure, and it's meant to be shared. I'm here with my nephew, George Arrington. George, I have watched you grow up, and you are an incredible outdoorsman. You've caught some major fish, you've gotten some big bucks. Tell us a story about what you've learned from hunting.
Well, when hunting, you always meet a bunch of adversities and stuff, just like you do in life. And one day I was hunting, and my dad told me to walk ahead at our new hunting camp, and so I got lost while walking. And my dad went looking for me, and I was lost for about an hour and 30 minutes walking around. And then by the time he finally found me and got me set up in my stand, right as I got in there, a big 8-point buck walked out and dropped him right there in the field.
Oh.
Yeah.
So that lost and found story was real, wasn't it?
Yes.
What was it like to be lost for that long?
I mean, I've been there a few times, but not a lot, so I wasn't too worried about it. I was more just worried about my dad yelling at me for getting lost and not messing up the hunt for everybody else.
And man, then you dropped this big buck right after it.
Yep. He didn't even believe his eyes when it walked in the field, so. That's a good thing.
Fantastic. How old are you now, George?
I'm 15.
15.
Sir.
And I know you like to go hunting with friends and family.
It's always a good experience to go hunting with friends.
Exactly. All right, well, let's go get them. Let's go get that big buck.
All right, let's go.
I'm here with my good buddy, hunting buddy, Keith Evans, accountant by day, hunter by night. Tell us about Lake Edens, and you have a place out here, is that right?
That's right. Just a real beautiful place. You get kind of tired of doing tax returns all day. Just nice to come out here and we have some good fellowship and see the beauty that God has created for us, and just get to spend some time in the woods and kind of help clear your head a little bit.
There you go, and you bring your son out here too.
Yeah, it's been a great bonding times, and like I say, they grow up fast, so any chance you get, it's good to do something with them.
Tell us about Matthew. He just started bow hunting.
Yeah, he was able to kill his first deer this year with a bow, and it was a real exciting experience, and it had taken him 4 years of bow hunting to finally kill one. But I'll tell you another thing, Tom, I always think about when we had a successful hunt, me and you stood in the field and said a prayer over our bounty for that day, and it's just times like that fellowship with good people and thanking the Lord for everything He's provided for us.
Celebrate all celebrations.
Exactly.
There you go. Well, thank you. Let's go get us one.
Okay, sounds good.
When you go hunting, you have to whisper. What is it about the whisper that makes you pay more attention? I don't know what it is. It's that thin, small voice. In the story of Elijah was this great prophet, and he was kind of the lone ranger out there representing Judaism in a world of multi religions, including Baal. Baal was this image of a bull. A bull represents power and sexuality. And Elijah represented Yahweh, who was invisible. No statues of Yahweh, but many statues and images of Baal. And yet he prevailed. What he did was he said, I will take my God over your God. And sure enough, it happened. Immediately after that battle between Baal worshipers and himself, he went into a cave. For some reason, he was depressed. You'd think he'd be up. But instead, he went down. Sometimes that's the way it is when we go through momentous experiences. We find ourselves drained. Maybe that's what happened to Elijah. So he goes into the cave, and God comes toward him. Not in an earthquake, not in a fire, and not in the wind, but in a small, thin voice. That's the whisper. And there, Elijah heard these words. What are you doing here? Or what are you doing here? Or what are you doing here in this dark cave? Get up and eat. So Elijah got up and ate, and he came out of his depression, and he carried on following God. If you're going through a cave in your own life, if you find yourself asking, what am I doing here? Know that God can whisper to us today, invite us to get resurrected, to eat, to get nourished, to get filled, so that then we can carry on in mission. That's the message for today. Now let's get back to hunting. camo. Why do we wear this camo? And then we cover it up with all this orange. What's that about? I mean, we invest in all of this great pattern, and then we cover it up with a $10 vest. I just don't get it sometimes. How about you? Well, sometimes when you go in search of something great, you've got to look like that context around you. And that's the way it is when you're in the mission field. There's a missionary named Hudson Taylor. Hudson Taylor was the first missionary to go into China. Before he went to China, you know what he did? Obviously, he learned the Chinese language. Second thing he did was he cut his hair to look Chinese. And thirdly, he left his home and he moved into the ghetto. He moved into the very poorest of poor, so that he could prepare himself to go into the mission field. He became part of that context. You and I are invited to be in the world, but not of the world. We are to be enculturated, to blend Christ and culture, just like this camo is out in the outdoors. Here we are at the end of January, and a lot of the colors are changing to brown. So this matches really well. I don't know about this orange, but we need it. You need to be safe in dangerous environments, just like this vest is for our safety. The good news is that God has great plans for us when we go in and leave our current context to go into new contexts. Are you in your comfort zone? Have you been there too long? Would you like to be a part of God's mission? We invite you to join us at Missionscape. We have all kinds of opportunities for you to serve. You can work with the media, with our TV programs, our radio programs. You can work with the water missions. What is it you'd like to be part of? You have opportunities all around you, just like me. Missionscape's all about encouragement and inviting people to go into their own mission fields at home, at work, and beyond. What would you like to do? Join us at Missionscape. Find us on missionscape.com, Missionscape on Facebook, Road in Between on Facebook, as well as Hush in the Rush. Let's get back to hunting. I'm here with Mike Giles. We're in 166. It's a special holy place that Mike built. And when he built it, this is the place where many big bucks have been taken down. Today could be the day. It's all about anticipation. Let's see what happens. Tell us about it. Well, she turned just a second. Shot her, she reared up, so I didn't get her quite as high as I wanted. Good shot. Stick around, we'll be right back.
Vision, quality, experience. Glass Incorporated's expert glaziers can handle single window panes to entire high-rise buildings. Whether you need storefront windows, skylights, mirrors, or shower enclosures, no job is too big or too small. Glass Incorporated, your commercial and residential glass experts. Locations in Meridian, Orange Beach, and the Mississippi Gulf Coast.
Harvest Grill, where great food and gatherings happen in the heart of downtown Meridian. Open for lunch and dinner, Tuesday through Saturday. Come dine with us and experience traditional recipes with a fresh, surprising new flavor. Visit harvestgrillms.com to view our menu and hours.
here we are in the Mississippi Delta. I've got Robert Smith with Glass Inc., and we are here for a Hush in the Rush at the end of deer season, and we are in Robert Smith's Glass Inc. mirrored house. it is phenomenal.
Mirrored shoot house.
It's a mirrored shoot house. Robert, you've shot a deer out of this before.
I did. I shot a big one this year.
Gosh, this thing is incredible. And when the deer see this, they think it's just another deer.
They do. And a big buck kind of makes him mad, you know, and he wants to come see what other big buck is right there close to him. And so I've had him come up close to me in it.
This is fantastic. It reminds me of a scripture in the Bible where it's about faith and works, and you got to believe, but you've also got to act on that faith. And if you don't act on that faith, it's like somebody going to a mirror, and when they walk away from the mirror, they forget what they look like. And so mirrors are a big part of that analogy. And here you've built a shoot house out of mirrors, of all things. This is really, really good. You know, as you think about when you look in a mirror at who you are, when you walk away, what do you see? What character traits do you have? This is Tom Sykes and Robert Smith on the Road in Between for another Hush in the Rush moment. Welcome back to the Road in Between. Thank you, Mike Giles, for sharing your story today with us in Pachuta, Mississippi. Mike, you are a prolific writer who's able to bring moments in nature and capture them and share them, whether it be in your writing or in your photography or in your sharing of your stories. What I like about what Mike Giles does is he not only enjoys nature himself, but he invites other people into nature as well. That's what the Road in Between is about. It's about not only going into culture and going into music and art, but it's also getting away and retreating to get renewal. I've got this old deer stand that I don't use anymore, but it reminds me that sometimes to get close up to nature, you've got to go into where they live. And that's what a lot of people do when they go in search of deer. You know, deer are some of the most difficult animals to hunt because they are so wary. Their noses are so strong, and they are aware of what's around them. You know, I wondered if I was as aware as deer is of God being around me. I'm probably not, but I'd like to be more that way. The Road in Between invites us to see God in wherever we find ourselves. You go nowhere by accident. Wherever you go, God is sending you. God has a purpose in your being there, and He's given His Holy Spirit to you. So when you go into the nature, look for God. Look for Him in the rhythms of the seasons. Look for Him in the leaves that are even off the trees. And remember that spring is just around the corner. This is Tom Sykes. We look forward to sharing another episode with you next time on The Road in Between. Road in Between is brought to you by John O'Neill Johnson Motor Company, Glass Incorporated, Construction Services, Archer Architecture, Bench Warmers Sports Grill, HH Production, Cooper Construction, Harvest Grill, Marcelo Cranes, Mitchell Signs, Imprints, Modern Outfitters, Mississippi Beverage and Water, Nationwide Insurance, Woodstock Furniture.
Thoughts keep running through my head as I walk this road with nothing ahead. The sun beams down on my face as I walk this road that leads to amazing grace.